calls on this now, though. Should we pay doctors more to stop strikes? 0207 862 2222 is the number. Give us a ring. Get your calls in right now. This Friday, resident doctors are set to walk out over pay for 5 days. They want a 29% salary increase, which they say would reverse pay erosion. The government has insisted it can't improve its offer of a 5.4% pay increase. The Health Secretary Wes Streeting has proposed wiping off part of doctors' student debt. Let's have a look now. We put together a little bit of a sketch of what wiping off all of it would mean here. We start with 70k of student debt, and that is an approximation. It can be much more than that. It can be less as well. The starter wage for a resident doctor is 39k. That's during their foundation year. They pay 9% of earnings over a threshold, which I think is 26 grand. That leaves them with £1,083 a year to pay off from their student debt. Now, that's what they would gain if Wes Streeting wiped all of that student debt. Of course, it would be half that if he wipes off half of that number as well. So what do you reckon? Is that a solution? Is that a different way to look at it, Nina, to say, rather than giving them the pay increase, let's look at student debt and maybe focus on that as a way to help them through those early years?
I have a lot of time for Wes Streeting, and I think he's being very creative. I don't want the doctors to go on strike for a couple of reasons. One is that they have now lost the support of the public. If you look at any of the polls, the public are not in tune with them.
How about you? Do you sympathise with the reasons they're asking for more money?
I sympathise with them because their pay has eroded in real terms, and they are so important to us that, you know, people say, "Oh, look how much money they get." They earn that money. They have trained for so many years. It's not like you've trained to work behind the pharmacy counter at Boots and can give a cure and a bit of a chat about a sore throat. It's not that. They dedicate their lives to keeping us healthy, and so therefore they deserve that. They deserve to be appreciated. They were so badly treated under the Tory government. Banging saucepans during the pandemic was not it. And then who was that nincompoop that was Health Secretary? What was his name? The one who groped a woman in the corridor.
Oh, Matt Hancock.
Matt Hancock. So we didn't engage with them. That's why there were all these strikes. And I think what's then happened is that there's become a more militant element that's taken the leadership of the BMA, and that's kind of made it really difficult. But I do not want them to go.
Do you think they should be paid more, though? Do they?
I think they should be paid more.
There's a lot of controversy about the way that they've calculated this erosion. They've used RPI, which is an outdated... that sort of thing doesn't go down well with the public.
No, it doesn't.
If they've clearly cooked the books to get this figure.
No, I don't think they've necessarily cooked... Well, OK, it's a sleight of hand thing, and that shouldn't have been done. But they still don't have the same... financial equity with what they had before.
Mike, I mean, the reality is that we are losing doctors every year. They're going to work abroad where they can earn more. Just from that practical point of view, shouldn't we come to some kind of resolution to get them back to work on Friday?
Well, the reality of the doctors who, as you've pointed out, the BMA are led by a pernicious, nasty bunch of political activists, OK? But the facts are that doctors' pay has gone up 91% in the last 8 years. 91%.
Resident doctors?
Yes, resident doctors' pay has nearly doubled in the last 8 years.
But that's not 91%.
It certainly is. They've gone up 91%. Do you know that in May of this year, the
doubled would be 50%.
Average advertised pay for a doctor at this level in May this year was £99,000.
NHS doctor, is it?
Yes, that's right. £99,500. Doctors have incredible pension rights, which will see them right through to the end of their career and 30 or 40 years beyond that. They are one of the most privileged and best rewarded group of workers.
And responsible.
They're not responsible if they're going to follow the leadership in the BMA. According to a coroner's report, 5 people died. 5 people died during the last round of doctors' strikes as a direct result of doctors not being there. Pernicious and nasty.
Would you be alive today without the skill of doctors?
Of course you wouldn't, but you wouldn't
No,
be
no, no,
alive. You wouldn't be able to get around in town without the skill of a bus driver.
No, you personally. Would you personally be alive today without the skill of doctors and surgeons?
Nobody would, because you wouldn't have somebody to deliver you when you're born.
No,
for
never
goodness
mind
sake.
that. I'm talking about what medical. I'm not going to go talk about your private medical problems, but you talked about them on
I
the
value
show.
doctors
We are going to
greatly.
come back to
I
this.
value doctors
We are
greatly.
going to come back.
Yes,
We're
you
going
have to
to.
value
But
them
they are
more.
nasty and pernicious in their demands.
We're going to
Not
check
nasty
Mike's
and
medical
pernicious.
records, and then we're going to come straight back to this. We're taking your calls. Tom is in Manchester. What do you reckon, Tom? Are they worth it, or are they pushing it too far right now?
Oh, good afternoon to you, panel, and it's actually Tam, but never mind about that. Yes, I do think the doctor should get a pay rise, but I'd like to turn it on its head a little bit. Can you tell me one set of workers that's had a £30,000 rise in 14 years?
I can't think
And
of.
do you know who that is?
Go on.
MPs.
Okay. Yeah.
They've had £2,000-3,000 plus their expenses. They ring-fence their pensions, and to come back in Mike's point, going on about pernicious doctors and unions, there's no difference of what they are doing and what the Tory government did and successive governments have done. And that is for 14 years of austerity for what?
Tom, I wish to argue there. In the last doctor's strike, according to coroner's reports, this hasn't been made up, 5 people died. So doctors are going to go on strike on Friday, knowing there's a very good chance people will die. I thought at one time they would swear to the Hippocratic Oath that they were there to save lives, not let people die.
Well, if the government was so worried about that, Mike, maybe they could save lives by giving them money. Maybe
They're
not
very
what
well
they're
paid.
maybe not
They're
what
very,
they're
very well
asking
paid.
for, but let them get their pay back up to what it should be, along with other people in Britain.
Tam, they had a big pay rise last year.
Nearly 30%.
Why didn't they ask for what they wanted then and not accept it until they got it? Why are they back at the table after a year?
Come on, I'm going to call you Jeremy there, Matt.
It's all right.
Think about it. 30% is a good pay rise. I disagree that it's going for the amount what they're going for now, but they should get an adequate pay rise.
They're getting a fairer pay rise, Tam.
Everyone else.
They're getting a fairer pay rise. In the public sector, they're getting over 5%. Nobody else in the public sector is getting that. They're being treated more generously, but they want more and more and more. It's disgraceful.
There is a shortage of doctors, of 30,000 doctors, which means that the conditions that they work in are not ideal. And when you're working in that situation, you can't just say, I'm not feeling it today and go home.
Well, in that case, you campaign for work and conditions. You don't you don't campaign for pay when actually what you want is better conditions at work.
But you need better conditions as well. And the drain of doctors that are going out to other countries, because it is an easier life. My brother is a doctor. He's a consultant pathologist. And 15 years ago, he and his wife, they lived in Cheshire. He worked in Broad Green Hospital and the Countess of Chester, before the Lucy Letby thing, way before that. And they adopted twin baby girls from China, and that was wonderful. However, my brother discovered that he never saw them because this is 15 years ago. He working all hours, Monday to Friday, and on Saturday he had to go back in and do the administration because the setup was so bad. So he was headhunted by New Zealand, and he went there, and
Good for him. That's great.
But I'm saying the rot has been there for a long time.
But there's a surplus of doctors in this country.
There's not a surplus.
Well, how come young doctors are coming out of university and can't find themselves a job?
The Conservative government put a cap on the number of doctors who were being trained in this country. I think they capped it at 7,000 for the most idiotic. There is a shortage now of 30,000 doctors. I'm also at the sharp end of this.
Let's take another call. Carol's in Shropshire. What do you reckon, Carol?
No, they shouldn't go on strike, Matt.
OK. They shouldn't go on strike, but how are we going to stop them doing that, Carol? Is it by paying them more? Is it by cancelling their debt? How are we going to make it happen? Because they are determined it's going to be out on Friday.
To start with, Matt, when they had a vote for strike, it was only 50-odd% that actually voted. And of that 50-odd%, only 80% voted for strike. So the majority of doctors do not want a strike. And the BMA seem to me to be very selfish, because they had 22%. They're having 5-point-something% this year. That's 26%. And a lot of people working in the public services have never had anything like that over the years.
Absolutely right.
And the other thing,
Carol, I mean,
Matt,
typically,
the other thing,
typically when we have a
the
general
other thing
election,
is,
the turnout is about 55, 60%. So does that mean we ignore the result of a general election on that basis?
No, but we're talking about a strike. The general election wouldn't stop. It would carry on.
Well, it's voting for something and trying to judge the result of the vote
The
based on...
majority of doctors did not vote for a strike. The other thing, Matt, is why does that gentleman, whatever his name, I've forgotten his name because I'm talking, he always has to shout. Can't he talk without shouting?
Is that Mike?
No.
He's very
Yes,
passionate,
Mike.
Carol.
He always shouts. Now, he is going to be a heart problem in the future because of the way he talks and the way he shouts. And
Don't worry, it's already happened.
Don't worry, Carol. He's an Everton fan, so that if anything gets him, that will be. But it keeps him young. That's what we love about
People
Mike.
love the sound of my voice, Carol. It's as simple as that. Okay?
That's definitely not been proven.
The jury is definitely out on
That's
that
not
one, I
been
can
proven
tell
by
you.
a vote either, Mike. Right, thank you, Carol, for your call. It's a good point. Hazel's in Ayrshire. What do you reckon, Hazel? Do you think it's fair? Do we need to pay them more, the doctors, to stop them going on strike?
Yes, we do. And I'll tell you why. My daughter's a doctor. She's a young doctor working, I can't even begin to tell you how many hours she works in a week, sometimes 80. Loves her job, but let me get the three of you to think about this. When you have a bad day at work, think what that means to you individually. When my daughter has a bad day at work, it means someone's died and she hasn't been able to save them. And that can be a child, a person in a road accident. These people are at the front line of life. They see everything and they deal with everything. She spent 8 years at university studying to get to where she is just now. She's got all her loans to pay off. She was given an amount of money from her grandfather for a deposit for a house, and she decided to use it to study medicine. And I so admire her for that. And all of her colleagues are the same. And I take a massive shout out to all NHS staff. Okay. They are wonderful in what they do.
And no one's doubting that, Hazel, at all. And, you know, thanks to your daughter for what she does. Does that mean we just open the doors and give them whatever they want? That's the question.